here is a remarkable young woman that you've only got to meet very briefly during our panel. I'm going to let her speak the most. But what I would love to share with you is two things. Number one is that she comes from a background that in the United States has sometimes been feared and often ridiculed. And the Honorable Judge also brought that up as well. When she speaks her truth, this is not to denigrate a single other soul in this room or outside of this room for their beliefs. But she is here to tell you the truth of her story. So again, we can have open and honest conversations about our backgrounds, about the roles women have been expected to play in every culture. This is how we learn, ladies and gentlemen. This is how we grow, is by the sharing of these stories. And so I invite you to applaud her as she goes to take her seat, because she is risking for you as a leader. So Maha, tell us what your last name used to be.
I was born Maha Bodhi, and I recently became a U.S. citizen in March of 2018. I changed it to Maha Bodhi.
Maha Bodhi, and will you tell us why?
I'm a yoga teacher right now, and it has been a transformational healing journey for me, and Bodhi means the enlightened one, so I just chose that path.
So you are now sitting in front of the enlightened one,
I know,
just to let you know.
I hope one day to get there.
Well, what a beautiful thing to change your name into something that
More
represents
positive, uplifting, yeah.
Exactly, that's beautiful. So Maha, would you tell us a bit about your upbringing, about your relationship with your mother and your father, and the culture in which that you grew up, and then just the mindset of you as a young girl in that culture, and also your a little bit about your travels.
Yeah, absolutely. Both my parents are from Yemen originally. They're born and raised, and they had a typical arranged marriage, and they didn't know each other. They met on the wedding day, and yeah. So that's the norm in Yemen, how people are married. And I was born into that situation, but I was lucky because my father was a diplomat. So his job required him to move around a lot. Every 4 years, we would move to a different country. So I lived in Europe a lot, and I was born in Russia, and then we came here to the United States, and that's where my love affair with America began. It was really beautiful, and and then we had to move again, but I never got over it. I just fell in love with it so much that I would just keep watching American TV shows and watching Full House and Saved by the Bell, and I would know what the weather is here, but not wherever I was. I was just obsessed. Me and my sister, we just loved it here, and then we just kept moving around. We went to Saudi Arabia, we went to Qatar, and we stayed there for a long time. We would stay 4 years at a time, and then reality started to kick in as I got older. And when I was in Saudi Arabia, like my first day of school, and I was at 5th grade, and I was wearing a dress, and it was way below my knees, which I consider very long. But somehow I got in trouble, and I went to the principal's office because I was wearing a short dress. And women are not supposed to wear short dresses. And I was like, but this is not short. Mom told me short is like way above your knees. And she was like, no, you have to wear long all the way to your ankles. And I'm in 5th grade, and I had to go home, and they called my mom, and I had to go home. And my mom was very abusive. She was very violent. She was very mean. I think she was just very unhappy with her situation and did not have any other options, just like many women there. And she just acted out on us, and she would just beat us really violently, really bad, and really mean. And she would just have episodes and break things in the house and just scream and yell. And it was just very violent on a daily basis that was happening in our house. And then as I got older, they were grooming me to get married. So that's the typical journey for a woman in Yemen. It's like all you do is just, like, education doesn't matter, like nothing matters. Your role in life is to become a wife and have kids and serve your husband. That's the goal of a woman in Yemen. And something inside of me, even though I didn't see anybody, different, having a different role, like a female Yemen, like women from Yemen have a different role, but something inside of me like refused to play that role, and I did not want to cook, and I did not want to clean, and I did not want to be married, and I did not want to have a bunch of kids and just serve my husband. And also there, men can marry more than one wife. They can have up to four wives, and very common, yeah. So that was the reality that I lived in, and yeah, as I got older, people were starting to do like the arranged, it's kind of a business. They start to talk like, okay, who's she gonna marry? And my parents saw an opportunity, like, oh, let's wait for the highest bidder because they pay a dowry, I think that's what it's called. Yeah, let's wait for the the highest bidder. And he came, and he was a very wealthy, he came from a very wealthy family. His dad was the prime minister at that time, and very successful. And it was arranged. They showed me a photo, like, this is it, this is gonna be your husband. And I didn't want to, I cried. I said, this is not what I want. And they're like, nope, you're gonna do it. And I was walking down the aisle sobbing, and it was a giant wedding, 500 people, like a fancy hotel ballroom, just like this one. And I'm crying and sobbing, and everybody is watching. And it's very common that this happens there, and nobody did anything about it. And that's it, and I married him. And I just remember, like, on my wedding night, I was just like looking for windows and like, how can I escape? And like, where would I go? And what, like, there's nowhere to go.
That must have been horrifying.
What would I do? I'm in Yemen, where would I go? Like, there's nowhere to go. You go to the police, they'll send you right back because you're a slut and you're a whore, just like what Judge Einhorn said. Like, you get shamed because you're a woman, your job is to serve your husband, that's your job. And if you can't be a good wife, then, you know, you're a whore, you're a slut, and you deserve to be punished. So I stayed for, 30 days, and I just could not take it. I was like, okay, which is worse, go back or stay here? But I just couldn't take it, so I went back home, and I was, so I came back home, and I literally was enslaved in my own home, in my parents' home. I was locked up in my room, not allowed to leave the house, not allowed to have a cell phone, not allowed to have any money, no internet, no nothing. I can't even go visit my own sister. My sister was married, I'm not allowed to visit her. I didn't even see my own sisters that were living in my own home, my parents' home, and that was just my life. And for 2 years locked up in my room, I was literally losing my mind.
Because you were such a shameful creature at that point.
Exactly. Then. I was a disgrace, I was shameful, and I believed it. I believed it because that's what I was told, that this is what you do. And why you? Why are you so special? All the women are like this here in Yemen. Why are you a princess? You can't deal with this. And I believed it. I was like, oh, there's something wrong with me because I'm the only one who's not obedient, who's not submissive. There's something wrong with me. And then another man came, and it was arranged marriage, same thing, and he came, and I was like, I actually was kind of hopeful. I was like, okay, at least it's better than being locked up in my room. Maybe he'll love me. Maybe he'll be nice to me.
But he wasn't.
It was. The first guy was like an angel compared to this guy. This guy was crazy. He had guns and weapons, and he would choke me, and he would put a gun in my head all night long, and he would have us, if he leaves the house, he would lock all the doors when he leaves the house. And then he would call me on his cell phone and tell me to stay on my cell phone and until he comes back, just so he knows what I'm doing the whole time. And one night I fell asleep, I was so tired, and he was late. And so I fell asleep, and he was talking to me, and I didn't respond because I was sleeping, and he came home, and that's when he just went nuts. And I thought I was gonna die that night. I really did. He brought up all the way, and he was very dramatic. He had a big sword, and he would put it by my neck, then he would cut my head, and it was just, so I was like, okay, do I go back to my mom to beat me up and lock me up, or do I stay with this guy? Those are my options. And I was like, okay, I'll just go back. I just went back, and I just got lucky. The universe somehow, my dad got assigned to go to Romania because he's a diplomat, and it was his last assignment before he retired. And he was like, I'm going to Romania, and this guy would come to my parents' house and start shooting to my bedroom window and break all the glass. So my parents started to get scared for their own well-being, so my dad was like, I'm going to go to Romania, just come with me. And that's where it started. I went to college in Romania, and I began to see like what freedom looks like. And even though
what did you love about freedom?
I saw, it's very simple things that you guys might not relate to, but just like when the wind blows your hair, and because I had to cover up the whole time, and I was like, wow, like the wind blows your hair. I don't know, you get to wear pretty clothes, and you get to be a girl, and I was always romantic. I wanted to fall in love and meet somebody. I watched the movies, so I never saw women in real life that inspired me, but my only resource was television, so I would watch television. I would get so inspired. Like the movie Shawshank Redemption was it changed my life for some reason. Because he was in a little cell and he only had a fork and he would just like dig one day at it, and I was like, wow, he could do it. So there's hope for me to get out of this place, and it really inspired me. I was like, there's a way. There has to be a way. And so a lot changed when I was in Romania, even though it was so hard, because even at school, if I had a lecture that was late at night, like at 8:30 p.m., I'm not allowed to go to that class because it's too late. And I had a curfew, and I'm in my 20s, and I had to be home by 8. And I had to be always somebody watching me. Somebody has to be like either a driver or somebody that my dad, like works for my dad, has to be watching me the whole time. I can't be by myself at all. And then my friends started to apply for graduate schools. The Romanian friends, they started to apply for graduate schools to come here to the United States, and I was so inspired. I'm like, this is it. This is my way out. I started applying, and I got accepted, and I lied a million lies to convince my dad, and he was like, okay, go, and I'm like, 18 months and I'll be back, and in my head, I'm like, it's do or die. I'm going there, and I'm never coming back. Even if I this is it, this is my chance. Even if I have to sweep the streets of America, I will stay there, I will not go back. And that's it, and I came and I made it, by the grace of God, I just made it, and I came on a student visa, but then that's another journey. My student visa started to expire, and I'm like, I can't go back to Yemen. I will literally die. Either somebody will kill me, or I will kill myself, because after I tasted freedom, to go back to that, I cannot go back to that. And I stumbled upon Jude Einhorn, and he is my hero, and he did change my life. And he had heart problems at the time, and he was in surgery in the hospital, and he would email me, I have not forgotten about you, hang in there. He's telling me to hang in there while he's having open heart surgery. That's the kind of person he is. And I had not one lawyer, an army of lawyers. All of his students were working on my case. They helped me. They helped me rehearse for my interview. They wrote my whole deposition, everything, all that stuff. They did that for me, and they came with me to the interview, and they held my hand up until March 2018, until I was sworn and I became a citizen. This whole journey, they were there for me step by step.
So in closing, I would love for you to share with this audience, besides the wind in your hair, which I love, and now I have a great appreciation for Full House and Shawshank Redemption. What does it mean as a woman to be free now for you? What does it mean moving forward? And what would you tell any woman who is, shackled in some way?
I think just to muster the courage, to be brave, to take that little tiny step. And I know it's scary when you have to come, from under the veil and under all of the black stuff and the covering and coming to a place of unknown. But sometimes the pain of remaining still is way greater than the pain of change and unknown. So just take that step, and freedom is so beautiful. And it's this journey. It's not going to just happen overnight, because I left Yemen, but Yemen didn't leave me. So I still had those demons that I had to work with and heal. So I found yoga, and it really healed me. And I'm a yoga teacher now, and I try to inspire others. And I even created this transformational program to help heal others as well. And there's a way. What I want to say is that there's a way. There is hope. It's doable. It's possible. Be your own hero, take that step, it's worth it.
It's worth it. I love that. I think this is another one that deserves a round of applause for the courage. Isn't that amazing? A few years ago, I wrote a book about a woman who was the 19th wife of 65 women. It was human trafficking in the name